The latest typhoon update. We're being affected by another one already, and some things you need to know about typhoons here in the Philippines. Cyclones, hurricanes, typhoons. Pretty much, hurricanes and typhoons are cyclones, but they're named differently depending on where they happen in the world. And presently, here in the Philippines, Southeast Asia, we are following Nika. It's ready to hit here in November 11th, ready to do some damage with high winds and rain in northern Luzon. And this map is a little different than what I looked at yesterday. It looked like we were going to have more of the wind and rain bands, even affecting down here hundreds of kilometers away in Cebu Island. Anyway, some information about. We'll get into specifics about this storm, the last storm, and the next storm that's coming. Average number of typhoons per year in different parts of the Philippines, and you can see that many of them turn north. They come in off of the cold Pacific to the right here or to the east, and they hit the water around the Philippines. The Philippine Sea is much warmer, maybe 80 degrees or more, a little bit less, a little bit more. And when they hit that warm water, just like in the Gulf of Mexico, for instance, they can pick up a lot of energy very quickly. Within a day or two, a tropical depression can turn into a typhoon or even a super typhoon. And anyway, down here in Mindanao, especially the southern two-thirds of Mindanao, doesn't get hit by typhoons at all. But you don't need a typhoon to have major damage. All you need is a lot of rain. Typhoons are categorized by wind speed primarily, and so you can have a whole lot of rain in a tropical storm without it being categorized as the higher winds of a typhoon and do even more damage than a typhoon would. I want to show you a couple of very important, interesting charts here, and then we'll get into the details of the present typhoon we're dealing with. This is the number of typhoons per year from many years ago to 2021, I believe. And you can see every year it fluctuates quite a bit, substantially. So you've got the blue line there, that's the mean. You know, half of them occur under that line, half of them occur above that line. But another very interesting, important chart is this one here, and it breaks up how many typhoons hit the various regions of the Philippines. Very important as you think about where you're going to settle down, move to. You definitely don't want to be in low-lying areas that are subject to flooding on a regular basis. Anyway, the least number of typhoons, the green line there, is in Mindanao. They don't get hit by many. The red line is Visayas, the Visayas, eastern, central, and western Visayas. The not that many typhoons. And then you go up. The next line up is southern Luzon, and then the top line is northern Luzon or total Luzon. Yeah, total Luzon, and the other one is southern Luzon, I believe. So let's get into the details of the present typhoon affecting the Philippines. All right, jumping over to the official government agency site called Pagasa, and they've got a lot of information. Tropical cyclone Nika is the Philippine name over here, and the international name is Toraji, I believe. And it was a storm out here. Um, this November is being quite above average for typhoons, for storms coming into this area. Just for your information, this red line here is imaginary line. You aren't going to see it as you fly into the Philippines. And that is the Philippine area of responsibility. And once the storm crosses that line, the Philippines changes the name. In this case to Nika. International name is Taraji. when the storm leaves that red line, and it will go back to the international name. And you've got a legend down here from the least to the biggest storm. So the D is tropical depression, tropical storm, severe tropical storm, typhoon, and super typhoon. And you can see we're severe tropical storm up through here, and turns into typhoon based on wind speeds primarily. And you've got these numbers here up here. This is general flood advisories, and Typhoon Nika number 1 being the least damage on up to 4. So you can see they have increased substantially since last night when I looked at these numbers. And this is the projected path. The last one went through a few days ago, kind of clipped the northern end of Luzon up here. So Luzon is getting hit with a lot here in November. And boy, one thing they don't need is more rain up there. And back to what I said in a different video, you don't need a typhoon based on high winds to do a lot of damage. We had a severe tropical storm down here, severe tropical storm a couple of weeks ago, dumped horrendous amounts of rain, inundated many towns, cities, villages, especially down in the Bicol region down here, and can cause a lot of flooding. So consider that when you're looking for a place to stay. Is it prone to flooding? How about access to clean water? Anyway, let's jump over to one of my favorite sites, which is windy.com. It's a free site. You can go online to their windy.com. You can download apps for your phone, and it works all over the world. And here we have Typhoon Nika. I pay for the premium. I think it's, I don't know, 20 something for the premium, and I get longer forecasts. For instance, one thing that I get here, you have a number of things you can play with down here, and all just a ton of different information. Menu, weather radar, satellite, wind, rain, thunder, temperature, clouds, waves, rain accumulation, and hit the menu here, and that will expand to even more. I have it turned on to Radar Plus, something that I prefer. We can check the weather radar, see what's happening, where the rain is. Satellite radar is kind of satellite and weather radar, I believe, basically. Wind and wind gusts. And you can go by, I've got this set to miles per hour, but you can have it in kilometers per hour as well down here. And there are different models. There's many different agencies and groups that track storms and weather, and this is the ECMWF, this is GFS. Here has it just a little bit different. So we have this storm system that is going to move across northern Luzon relatively quickly, but we've got another one sitting back out here as well. It is presently Monday the 11th. This app is good all over the world, and some interesting things up here that you can mess with. A hurricane tracker is pretty interesting, and this is the one that we have right here. There again, you've got forecast models, number of different forecast models. We can click on this, Taraji or Nika, and we get their tracking, the different models, and it shows their tracking as well and gives you the times. Now let's talk a little bit about Philippines preparedness for these types of calamities. And it has improved over the years. These typhoons don't give a lot of warning. You see a low pressure system out in the Pacific Ocean that may or may not develop into a tropical storm, severe tropical storm, typhoon, super typhoon, and you don't really know until a day or two before it hits the Philippines. And although they've got models that will project many different paths for these storms, they're never really sure up until the last day or two before. And then they start, and even then sometimes it will do some crazy things, and it doesn't always follow the human models. Can you believe that? Nature does not follow human models. Um, anyway, here's a breakdown of the various storm intensities. And anyway, I've been in the Philippines about 10 years now. Wow. And I've seen them increase their preparedness more and more. They're pre-positioning supplies. They're activating their different agencies to help evacuate people, to house people, to feed people, to rescue people, that type of thing. I remember, gosh, I don't remember the year, but back in, I think, George Bush Jr.'s presidency, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and he were highly criticized. The big hurricane that hit New Orleans did some major damage to flood levees and such, and just did enormous amount of damage and a lot of criticism. And since then, they have improved a lot. They will move the United States. They will move utility workers in from states all over the U.S. into an area that is expected to get hit by a storm, a typhoon, or what they call hurricanes there, or a huge snowstorm, that type of thing. So they will pre-position personnel and supplies in those areas. The Philippines is getting better at that. Part of the problem is you have a relatively small country. Philippines, size-wise, land-wise, is about the same size of the state of Arizona. In the USA, Arizona has 7 million people. The Philippines has, I think, last thing I read, 118 million people. That's a lot of people to evacuate and feed and try to recover and get them back into safe areas after all this takes place. So this is probably the question that I get asked the most often. When is typhoon season? What are the months where the least typhoons happen? And we've got a couple of charts here. This is total cyclone numbers by months here in the Philippines, and by the years. The red is 1900 to 1945. The teal, I guess, color, 1970 to 2015. And that's the total number of typhoons over that period. So we'll look at more the averages. There's no such thing as normal. Every year is different, as we've talked about before. And here is the mean, and the numbers over on the right side, 0 at the bottom, 1, 2, and 3, and then you have your months and which category it is, whether it's a category 2, 3, 4, or 5, depends on how dark the color is. So that's pretty important, because a low category storm, unless it dumps enormous amounts of rain, is not going to do as much damage as a 3, 4, or 5 in many cases. There again, the rain, typhoons are categorized by wind speed, and I always say primarily because I think that's the only thing they use, but I'm not absolutely positive that they don't consider some other items as well. I think it's just wind speed, but that could change over time as well. But the rain is another issue. You can have a huge amount of rain without even having a typhoon. So it gives you some ideas, but this will vary by what part of the Philippines as well. That's why we looked at the other charts and where it's happening. Most of those go north, northeast, and more likely to hit Luzon, the northern island, or if they hit the Visayas, they'll hit Samar and Leyte over there, coming in off the Pacific and the east, and they'll hit those areas. They'll often lose their strength before they make it to the Cebu area, the central Visayas. Though it seems like every 10, 10, 11, 12 years, one slips, a super typhoon slips through there. Yolanda in 2013, and Odette that I witnessed, experienced 20, no, it's been almost 3 years ago now, so it would be 2021, I think, December 2021. We were without electricity for a couple of weeks. Anyway, that gives you some idea. Let me know. Have you ever experienced a hurricane or typhoon? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, safe travels out there. See you next time.